Hey guys, what's up? Brandon here. So I'm out on the lake today, just an Oklahoma lake. It's got a little bit of grass, rock. It's not real big, but it's big enough to have offshore and up shallow. It's clear enough water. So may not catch anything today, but we're gonna try. We're gonna show you kind of how I break it down, what I find out, and kind of my approach to a lake. Right now, I really just kind of drove into one of the bigger creeks. I'm almost just looking up shallow, fishing up shallow, have my life scope pointed out a little deeper to see kind of where they're at. But right now I'm going to start up shallow because it's fairly early, and then probably work my way off. It's late spring. The water temp right now is 72, so they're obviously probably done spawning. We've had just a lot of really warm, unseasonably warm weather just recently. Came right off of a cold snap, so they should be in that transition stage still, some up shallow, some deep. But we're going to see where we can find the big ones at. But right now I'm focusing on this water willow right behind me, swim jig, frog, kind of see what happens. And then obviously looking for shad balls and everything off deep. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll let you know what I find out. Okay, so I fished a little bit around where I just opened that video at, but it didn't really set up what I wanted to fish. I wanted to work my way back a little bit further. So I found this where the channel swung right against this dock. So I fished that dock, didn't catch anything off of it. And then, so I picked up a frog and went down this bank. I was actually able to get one blow up on it. Pretty good fish too. And so I kept fishing that frog for a little bit further, and I just couldn't get any bites on that little stretch where I thought looked good. But I knew they'd be spawning. They had spawned back here, and they'd be moving out on these transitions, hitting isolated stumps on that dock. That's kind of why I started there. All these points to get out to deeper water. So my first fish came off this isolated laydown, and it was a smaller fish, which granted there could have been a bigger one with it, but just in my mind at the time, it just really, I knew they were up there, but just something wasn't right in that stretch. I knew the bigger ones had either slid out or had moved up and were on more of what I thought on deeper transitions. So I didn't really fish this area much after I caught the fish. I actually headed pretty much straight out to deeper water because I thought maybe those fish would be offshore. So I went offshore for a little bit. I didn't see much. I saw a couple, but they weren't grouped up like typically they are this time of year when they actually get out there full time. Saw a little bit of bait. Spent some time throwing several baits at it. I knew if I could get on them, they would bite because usually they're pretty aggressive. But nothing really went. So I didn't spend a lot of time doing that, and basically wanted to go out to the main lake, find some wind. I knew about some grass with that swim jig, with shad spawn possibly happening with that water temp where it is. Me catching that smaller fish in the back of the pocket. It just made sense for them to be out in the wind and the grass. So that's why I kind of went out. I went straight out to this point. I had just been pulling up here. What I was using here was a 3/8 ounce swim jig, white, with a white crawl trailer on it. Obviously shad spawn, I'm going to use white. That 3/8 ounce, it just allowed me to move that bait pretty quick. And then with the type of trailer I had on, I lost the trailer, so I can't show you. The trailer I had on, it allowed the bait to sink enough where I could move it quick, keep it high enough. I didn't want to really be able to see it, but it's almost like where it was barely out of sight. I can see just a little bit of it, is where kind of I was getting all my bites at. Not too high, but not too low. So that first one, came right off in between these. It's kind of like a little cutout in the grass here that he came out of. And right after that, I knew shad spawn was going on. I knew they were up in this grass chasing shad. So I knew this was going to be the thing that I'm going to focus on the rest of the day. Here's kind of a quick look at the water willow. Had just kind of started coming up a little bit, sprouting, and there's kind of little patches of it on this point. So after that, I really wanted to go. I fished that spot a little bit further, hit a couple edges, didn't get bit. So I wanted to go back through with that a top water. I used the Berkeley Chopo here because I had seen some fish blowing up, like you can see off the front of my trolling motor there. So I wanted to go back with that I got one blow up off of that, but I couldn't get anything to commit to it. So from there, after 2 misses on a topwater, I just kind of decided I would go swim jig only. I kind of ran, there wasn't a lot of spots similar on this lake, so I basically had to find something that set up kind of the same. So the closest I could find was going across the lake where the wind was hitting this bank, and there's isolated patches of water willow. So I'd kind of rotate a square bill on the rock and then swim jig around the isolated chunks of water willow. There were several along the bank. I felt like it set up right, and nothing was there. So after that, I kind of had to abandon that area or those kind of thoughts playing the wind. And I just really went back exactly to the same area that I was. The water was a little bit deeper here. We had that wind pushing in. And kind of here's a look at it. In my mind, so you have these green patches of water willow, and you had little clumps of water willow where that wind would push through there and, create little ditches, current ditches, seams. And I think those shad was getting pushed up into that grass, as well as they could have been spawning in it and coming out and moving around in it. But those bass were either up in that grass and kind of ambushing the bait, or they would see it get pushed into the grass and they'd get it from there. So that's when I got my second one, a pretty good one as well. This area too was just a little bit deeper, about like 2 foot compared to the others. Like points like this were about 1.5 feet. So I don't know if that played a role in it or if the bottom was a little bit harder in this area. I'm not really sure. Maybe just the shad was focused here because of the wind set up right and the clumps. I don't know, but it was just like this was like kind of the area that was going on at this point. So I really just focused pretty hard on this area and caught that one. And then I caught, soon after that, I caught a little bit smaller one, kind of right off this edge where I had gotten my other 2 bites as well. So, I drove around the lake a ton, fished some different areas. I really expected some offshore stuff to play, and I never really saw anything that set up like I would like it to set up. And I knew that the shad spawn could be going on, just that water temp in that 70s after the spawn, it typically should be. And it turned out it was. I was seeing a few shad blow up, getting chased, not a ton, but just a few enough to basically keep that white swim jig in my hand. The bigger ones, or the most fish, are still lingering around those beds and up shallow in that shallow water, and I think any moment now they're going to slide off into that deeper water where that offshore stuff will set up a little bit better. So as always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.